Want to create stunning professional-grade LEGO building instructions? Today, I'll guide you step by step through mastering Studio's page creation interface, so you can design pages that look as polished as official LEGO booklets. Let's dive in. Welcome to day 9 of BRICKSBIZ training. Now that you've mastered the Studio Step Editor interface, let's focus on the page design interface. At the end of this lesson, which once again promises to be quite rich, you'll learn how to define a global style for the pages of your future building instructions. You'll also find out more about how page design works in Studio. I'll also explain how to add an inventory of the parts needed to build your model at the end of your building instructions, just like in real LEGO instructions. Let's get started with this new lesson from the BRICKSBIZ training course and discover all the functionalities from the page design interface. Let's return to Studio and start with a quick reminder. You can easily toggle between Studio Step Editor and Studio Page Design interfaces using the two buttons at the top of the screen. We saw in yesterday's lessons how to use Step Editor interface, so today we'll concentrate on the Studio Page Design interface. We described the main areas of this interface in the third video of this training week. I invite you to watch that video again if you've forgotten. Before looking at how to use Studio Page Design interface, let's first look at the ways LEGO structures the pages of its own building instructions. Within a page of LEGO building instructions, you'll find mostly the same type of information. Each page contains a list of parts to be added to your LEGO model during a given building step, also indicated on the page. Some of the parts in this inventory may be required in a certain quantity. In this case, the quantity is indicated below the image of each part. You may notice that the background color of this area is generally different from the overall background color of the page. Within an instruction page, there is also a step number and a page number. The step number designates the building step. Building steps are sequential and ascending. The page number, as its name says, designates the page number in the instruction booklet. You may notice that these numbers are not always identical with the step numbers. Step 10 may be on page 8, for example. More generally, the page generally uses a single background color throughout the building instruction booklet. In general, the background color is chosen to ensure that the steps of building remain visible. Page size can also vary from one booklet to another, depending on the model. On more expensive LEGO models, you'll generally find building instructions in US letter format, whereas on smaller LEGO models, you may find building instructions in much smaller booklets, or as leaflets. In the center of the page, you'll usually find a 3D visual of the building step. This visual allows the model builder to understand where he needs to place the bricks onto the model to advance his build. This is not the case in all LEGO building instructions, but on some building instructions, the parts added during this step are highlighted or indicated by arrows. You may notice that the 3D visual of the building step has a specific orientation, allowing the builder to situate or place his parts. You'll find these same features, sometimes in a different format, in all official LEGO instructions. Let's take a look at the building instructions from Studio. These are the building instructions you'll be able to generate at the end of this second week of training. You'll see that the building instructions are very similar to those found in LEGO commercial building instructions. In Studio building instructions, you'll find the parts list in a similar configuration to official LEGO building instructions. Within Studio Page Design interface, you'll be able to modify size, border, color, part spacing, and other parameters. Next, you can view the step number. This section is also similar to what you'll find in the official LEGO building instructions. And in Studio, you can modify the style, size, font type, and color. As with the parts list, you can also change where this information is displayed. However, you will see that the page number is not displayed in Studio. You can still find this information in the page design interface. On the other hand, if you want to display a page number on your final building instructions, it will have to be added in post-processing on the PDF file that will be generated by Studio. The background color can be customized in Studio. You can therefore reuse exactly the same color as that used in the official LEGO building instructions. The most important area of the page, the 3D visual of the building step, is similar to that found in the official LEGO building instructions. By default, new elements in this step are highlighted. This feature, not always present in official LEGO building instructions, is extremely practical for future builders. Finally, you can adjust the model orientation and camera angle to better show where and how new parts are added to the model during this step. So, apart from the page number, in Studio, you can produce exactly the same quality building instructions as those inside the official Lego boxes. I'd now like to take a closer look at the contents of the page design interface. First, let's look at the layout of our future building instructions. I'm doing just a quick break in the video to let you know that if you're enjoying this free training, you're going to absolutely love the full BRICKSBIZ training course. BRICKSBIZ full training course, this is more than 25 hours of online content, an exclusive membership to a private Discord community full of business experts, a lifetime access to monthly live sessions, and tons of templates, bonuses, marketing strategies, and automation scripts to turn your passion for Lego bricks into a profitable business. It's completely risk-free to try. You have 14 days to explore the program, and if you're not satisfied, you'll get a 100% reimbursement. No questions asked, though I'm pretty sure you won't need it. So if you are looking for more information, just follow the link that appears underneath this video. I let you get back to the content of this free BRICKSBIZ training course video. This feature is accessed via a control panel available by clicking on the Page Setup button in the top right-hand corner of the Page Design interface. In this interface, you can modify the size and margin of your future building instructions. The default format is A4 in Europe and US letter in the USA. If you plan to print your building instructions, for example to include them in a premium package for future customers, you may wish to modify this configuration. If this is not the case, I advise you to leave the default configuration. It will be perfect for offering high-resolution building instructions in PDF format. If you decide to modify the page layout, you can use this control panel to change the page width and height values, as well as the margins and color palette. You can also choose your page measurement unit between inches, centimeters, or pixels. Once again, I advise you to keep the default values present in this panel, but now you know that you can change these values if you wish. Let's move on to the parameters of the building instructions. The Settings panel is located on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see two tabs at the top of this side panel. The Format tab lets you define a whole range of parameters specific to a given page. The Global Style tab lets you define the global characteristics applied to all pages of your building instructions. In the Global Style tab, you can modify virtually all the elements present on all the pages of your building instructions, such as background color and page borders, the style of step numbers, the appearance and structure of the parts inventories on each page, the choice of highlighting for parts added at each step, the way submodels are displayed, or the way additional elements such as size and color guides are displayed. We'll come back to all these points in more detail in this and future lessons. Once you've defined an initial configuration for your ideal style of building instructions, I strongly advise you to save it for later use, and so avoid having to reconfigure all the parameters at a later date. To save your configuration, click on the Save As button at the top right of the Global Style tab and give your configuration a name. This configuration will then be selectable from the drop-down menu just below. When you create building instruction pages for a brand new model, simply select the corresponding style from this drop-down menu, and Studio will update all defined parameters accordingly. You can also modify this configuration by clicking on the Save button to the right of the drop-down menu. Make your configuration changes and click on Save. Your customized style will be updated. Let's turn now to the specific configuration of a given page. In fact, for some pages, it may be desirable to have different parameters than those defined in the Global Style tab. The first tab in the right-hand panel, entitled Format, allows you to select different parameters for your page than those configured in the global parameters. The contents of the Format tab are context-sensitive, i.e., they change according to what is selected on the page within the page design interface. For example, if no elements are selected on the page, you can change the background and border of only the page displayed on the screen. If the step number corresponding to the page displayed is selected, you can modify it. If the parts list on the displayed page is selected, you can change its structure. If the entire step is selected, i.e., the entire frame surrounding the step within the page, then the Format tab displays information on the possible orientation of the camera within this page. You'll find that this is the option you'll use most often when finalizing your building instructions. There are also other possible selection options which we'll look at later in this lesson. When you modify the configuration of a given page within the Format tab, this modification takes precedence over the global parameters. This means that Studio will first take into account the page-specific settings in the Format tab. Then, if no settings are defined in this tab, it will search for global settings in the Global Style tab. Conversely, if no specific parameters are defined in the Format tab, the global parameters defined in the Global Style tab will be taken into account by Studio. You can reset a page's parameters to the values of the global parameters using the Revert button at the top of the Format panel. Click on Revert, and all the specific values chosen for the page in the Format tab will be replaced by the default values defined in the Global Style tab. Alternatively, if you find that the configuration of a given page is optimal for your building instructions, you also have the option of updating the global parameters to reflect this configuration. Click on the Update Global button, and the settings specific to the selected page will be applied to all other pages in the document. The information in the Global Style tab will also be modified accordingly. In this case, you'll need to save your global style in the Global Style tab if you wish to associate this specific configuration with a particular saved style. Now that we've looked at the parameters that can be configured at page layout level, let's concentrate on the most important area of the page design interface, which is the 3D visualization area of a page's content. This area takes up most of your screen. Within a building instructions page, you can modify its content. First of all, you can enter and move all the elements on the page to the position you require. In this way, you can move step numbers, parts lists, the model displayed in the center of the page, and other elements that will be displayed on the screen. As you move the 3D model displayed on the page, you may notice that Studio often displays a ghost image of the previous step in the background. This handy feature allows you to position the model in exactly the same position as in the previous step. Please note that you can also use your mouse by right-clicking and selecting Align to Previous Step Image, which is a feature from Studio that I use very often and for which it would be convenient to get a shortcut. Studio also displays two red lines, one vertical and one horizontal, to indicate the center of the step page. You can use these two red lines to center the model on the page. By default, elements present on the page are placed semi-automatically by Studio, trying to stick to the default location, or trying to keep parts added during the corresponding step in the center of the screen. You'll find that sometimes Studio even prevents you from moving the model to the desired location. If you want to place an element exactly where you want it, hold down the Control key, or the Command key if you are on Mac, grab the element with your left mouse button and release it at the precise location, keeping your finger pressed down on the Control key. With this method, you'll be able to place the current page template exactly where you want it. This trick allows you to avoid the placement limitations imposed by Studio by default. One of the features you'll use most in the page design interface is the ability to change the camera angle for a given step. Indeed, for a better end-user experience and to obtain beautiful building instructions, you'll certainly need to adapt the orientation of the steps for each page so that your future builders can visualize precisely where to place the bricks on their Lego model. To change the camera orientation, select the step by clicking somewhere on the page, then click on the Change Step View button to access the camera settings, which are now displayed in the Format panel. You can change the model orientation, model size, and camera configuration to obtain the desired angle, which is a view angle that displays all new parts added during this step. Your model orientation settings will be valid for the current step, but will also apply to all subsequent pages, up to a page with a new orientation change. This feature is very practical, but sometimes a little tricky to manage. To master it, one of the rules I recommend is to start your camera changes from the first page of your building instructions. Later in the course, I'll explain how to deal effectively with these different camera changes. To return to the model's previous orientation, click on Cancel Step View Change. Studio will then cancel the model's customized orientation on the page you have selected and restore the orientation present on the previous page. Let's move on to our first practical exercise of this lesson in order to familiarize ourselves with the page design interface. You're about to create your first building instructions for a Lego model. To start with, we're going to use the Lego logo we modeled during the first week of training. Download the file whose name appears on the screen and which is available through the link below this video. Open it in Studio and start creating your first building instructions using the functions described in this lesson. Try to choose the best possible orientation for each step and the best style for your step parts inventory. Save your final result, as you'll be using it in exercise number 3 of this lesson. As you've now become accustomed to doing, pause this video now, and if you have any concerns, restart the video to watch me perform the exercise before your very eyes. See you in a couple of minutes. Now let's go for the second practical exercise. We're now going to create the building instructions for our Lego duck model. Download the file via the link below this video and open it in Studio. Use the features of the page design interface to create the various steps in the building of your Lego duck. As in the previous exercise, try to choose the best possible orientation for each step and the best overall style for the parts inventory present in each of your steps. Once again, save your work at the end of the exercise and come back to it in exercise 3. I'll let you pause this video and restart it if the exercise is too complicated for you. See you in a couple of minutes. Now that you've learned the basics of using the page design interface, I'll explain how to add an inventory of the parts needed for your building at the very end of your building instructions. It's very useful for the future builder of your model to have an inventory, i.e., the complete list of parts to be used for the build. This global inventory is usually added at the very end of the building instructions creation process. To add a global parts inventory, select the very last page of your instructions using the navigation panel on the left of the screen. Then click on the New Page button at the top right of this area. Then select the new page and click on the Insert button just above the page view area. Finally, select the last menu item, Bill of Materials. The complete list of parts required for your model is then added by Studio to the new page you added earlier. When the parts list is too large, Studio automatically adds additional pages. If you select this part's inventory on the page, you also have the option of modifying its characteristics in the Format panel. This allows you to change the display, border, style, or width of the parts displayed in the Settings panel. One important information to keep in mind, although Studio updates the parts list automatically when you add parts to the 3D model, major changes to the layout or 3D model may destroy your parts inventory at the end of the document. I therefore advise you to add it only at the very end of the process of creating your building instructions. If you have already added one to your document, select the Inventory page, says, in the navigation area on the left of the screen, then right-click on the Inventory pages. Select the Delete option. By deleting the inventory pages one by one, you'll be able to add more inventory later, following the same procedure explained a few minutes ago in this video. Let's move on to the third practical exercise in this lesson. As you might expect, I'm going to ask you to add an inventory of the parts for each model to the building instructions for your Lego logo and Lego duck. To add the inventory, reopen in Studio the files you saved at the end of exercises 1 and 2 of this lesson and add the parts list as a new page at the end of each of the building instructions. Resize the parts inventory so that it fits on a single page and takes up most of the page. Save your results for both exercises, as you'll need them in the next lesson to create your final building instructions. Now it's your turn. Pause this video and come back to it once you've completed the exercise. Let's move on to the final practical exercise for this lesson. We'll now turn our attention to your Lego MOCs and create a first version of the building instructions for your creations. Open in Studio the 3D model you created for your MOCs during the first week of training and which you've broken down into steps as part of this week's previous lessons. Start creating your first building instructions for this model or these models using the knowledge gained in this lesson. At the end of your instructions, add an overall inventory of the parts needed for building. Please note, if you're following the complete BRICKSBIZ training course, not just the free one, don't go too far in this exercise. You'll learn many more expert techniques for optimizing and embellishing your building instruction creation process in the lessons to come. Pause this video and I'll leave you to work on building instructions for your own Lego MOCs. See you in a couple of minutes. We've now come to the end of this lesson on using Studio Page Design Interface. At this point, you should already have sufficient knowledge to produce a first draft of building instructions for just about any 3D model in Studio. Before moving on to the next lesson, make sure you're familiar with the main features of Studio Page Design Interface, that you've understood how to modify the visual content of your pages and how to influence the cameras to display a step. Before moving on to the next video, make also sure you've used your new skills to create your first building instructions practically, starting with the Lego logo and Lego duck, but also having worked on your own MOCs. I see you in the next video from the BRICKSBIZ training course. This video was taken from the BRICKSBIZ training course. If you'd like to discover the full richness of this training course and learn how to create and develop a business around your Lego, you can follow the link that appears just below this video. You'll be able to join a community of experts and generate your first dollars in less than 4 weeks. As for me, I'll see you in a new free video on the BRICKSBIZ YouTube channel. You can watch the video by clicking on the link on the screen.